I'm going in. I'm going in, I'ma make sure it's right for the you guys make a big page, but when I do big, I mean outrageous. Who you think is dealing with doll face? I only go make kings and queens, you know, cause I'm the ace by the case. That's right, I said I'm going in. While you out running errands, I'm running this game, I'm in that top spot. Natural born winner, work hard, play harder, come and get it if you wanna, but yo, you better know. I'm going in. I'm going in.
Week 8 of the LPL may be coming to a close today, but we still have some playoff battles on the bracket. First up, LGD versus OMG. This is an important fight here for LGD in the Hangzhou Arena, because if they do not get this victory over OMG, they are out of playoffs for sure, making them the second team to have been knocked out so far. OMG will still have a chance if they lose this one, but it's an important matchup for them as well. This entire day is pretty action-packed because coming up later, we're going to have our match of the week with RNG versus BLG. And you're going to see LGD coming in onto your screen right now. Just chilling, eating some food. Everyone back there, including Ian, who's been a really good performer recently for LGD, having been subbed out, having subbed out in favor of Yuki, rather. Yuki John. They want to bring in Ian, and he's been doing very well for them. Now, of course, OMG, on the other hand, have been having a little bit more of a tumultuous time. They haven't been picking up the wins they've been looking for. Their performances have been really inconsistent. Ala has been a very hit-or-miss player for them. He's either going to carry them or he's going to fall apart for them, and that's what they're going to have to rely on today. Welcome to the LPL. My name is Matt Niberia Clendaniel, joined here by Clement Chu. Clement, I'm excited for these matchups today, man.
Oh, I'm totally excited. We're going to start off with between the 14th and 15th place team inside the LPL, but these teams actually have a lot of fans. Always spicy games. You never can expect the outcomes when LGD is playing.
Yeah, and there's a lot of contention here today. Not only 14th, 15th place, they're trying to change that for themselves, but also when we look at the upper side of the bracket, there's a lot of movement that's going to come out of that today as well, especially from our second series, BLG versus RNG. They're going to be competing for that 4th place spot.
A lot of these teams are looking, like you said, in the 4th place. It's very important because you get a first round bye in the playoffs. RNG, after dropping that set to Rogue Warriors, really feel the pressure mounting on top of them. And Billy Gaming is also starting their stretch known as the Devil's Road, where they still have to face FPX, TOP, and Invictus Gaming after today's bout with RNG.
And you look at the top break of the standings there between 8th and 9th, and there's a lot of contention that's going to come out there. But first up, our series, LGD versus OMG, is going to start out the day, then RNG versus BLG, as we said. And finally, a fun one to end it off, FPX versus SDG.
Sino Dragons are feeling the heat as well, now sitting at 9th place, outside of that playoff range after WE surpassed them with their win yesterday.
Yeah, so Sino Dragons, it's going to be a hard road for them, you know. If they want to take down FPX, they've got to pull out their best, and you know, chances are middling. But LGD versus OMG is a little bit more exciting for me personally because I like the action that comes out of these teams. You know, they aren't necessarily the best teams in the league.
No.
But they do beat the best teams in the league, which is the funniest part about it. It's why we've been calling them the Robin Hoods here in the LPL. OMG and LGD both taking down some wins that they really shouldn't be getting. IG and EDG for LGD, and for OMG, they've taken down BLG and an Inform Suning.
If Counter Logic Gaming ever decide to expand to Asia, these are the two teams they should be picking up because they are truly illogical. You do not understand what they are doing. And this is why they have so many fans behind them. You know, watching an OMG series is going on the trip where you don't know any of the destinations and you can't read the names of the final stops. And they've had a couple of mottos attached to these teams given by the fans. This is our meme breakdown of the LPL. For OMG, it's the world keeps on spinning. They have a space-themed arena in Chengdu, and they have a team song called The Light of the Planet. This is one of the defining lines. The world keeps on spinning. It means no matter how downtrodden, no matter how bad we look right now, there's still hope at the end of the tunnel, and we can still take down the giants of the league. That's exactly what they have been doing. For LGD side, they are known as the true Robin Hoods. Their motto is, we don't slay the nameless. Third consecutive win against Edward Gaming, and last split as well, they also took down RNG. Truly counter logic.
And it's just such a demotivating loss for EDG, but LGD looks so good at the end of this one. But it's really, you gotta look at the players and their reactions after they win, because it's kind of heartbreaking when you look at EDG.
The only 2-0 series LGD has won the entire split has been up against Invictus Gaming and Edward Gaming. And you can see the smiles like you were talking about on Condi's face. He knows that they shouldn't have been able to walk away with this one. Clear Love, on the other hand, very different expression. He knew that was a big blow to EDG's playoff chances. They're still on this tightrope right now. But for LGD, they just always have EDG's number. Last split around, 2 consecutive victories in the Eastern Conference for some reason. Right now in 2019, there's only one player that shares that's still on this roster, which is PYL, but they still managed to defeat Edward Gaming. Nonetheless, they're the true Robin Hoods. They're the true kryptonite of the best.
And OMG have been looking pretty impressive too, especially in their win versus Suning, where they came back from one of the biggest deficits we've seen in the LPL this split.
It wasn't one of the biggest. It was the biggest upset that we've seen the entire split. OMG were down 3 inhibitors, down 10,000 gold, but they still managed to get the win over the enemy team. And these are the type of plays that you really expect from this team. The 1v9 potential from Icon to just snag a win out of anywhere is what keeps this team afloat. In all objective metrics, they shouldn't be a good team, and they haven't really had a great record. They've been losing and dropping games to the likes of Vici, to the likes of Rogue Warriors, but against the top of the league sometimes, they can pull out these upset victories that no one's really expecting, and that's the allure of OMG. It's that they have these savior type of players.
Well, and it depends on how those players are playing, right? Because in the beginning of the split, we were all aboard the Ala train. We're looking at him in the top lane. We're like, whoa, top DPM next to the Shy? That's crazy. This guy's going to go places, Clement. Maybe OMG are a top team. Well, we were pretty wrong about that, as it turns out, but Ala is still an impressive player, and alongside Icon, they have a lot of carry potential there.
Yeah, definitely. And OMG, you can really never count them out. They're known as the rockstar teams. They're all about their individual talent, and when things go right for them, those individuals can carry them throughout the entire match. On the other hand, for LGD, they also have a 1v9 player, and that one has to go to Kramer. He's really been the one to keep his team afloat, and we're going to show you one of the most heroic carry performances that we've ever seen someone pull off. Now, this is between Vici and LGD Game 1. LGD are completely wiped, save for Kramer, and he actually pulls off a 1v4 to bring his team back into the lead and even take down Baron. Like, I remember that cast with Dom. He called Kramer the Atlas of the LPL because the world is truly on his shoulders. LGD, as a team, they actually publicly announced that their roster was not working out. They swapped out Yuki for Ian in the mid lane, and they also had Amy come up and try a couple of games. I'm sorry, Amy didn't actually try, but they did say that he was going to try. They still started Condi throughout the entire way, but it's so cool to see a roster that, you know, publicly admits they're failing, still be able to come out and take down the best teams. Invictus Gaming and EDG were the guys that they took down, and a large part of it is because of Kramer's carry performances. He's gotten them out of so many bad situations. It truly is the Kramer show sometimes, and I can't wait to see what he can do today.
Well, it's especially impressive when you have a highlight play for a player that is, I think it's been almost 2 minutes of this clip now. And Kramer has stayed alive versus 3 people, a top laner. He ended up near the enemy base, just outside the inhibitor walls, and then they transition it into a Baron. When you have an 80 carry who can stall against 4 people for 2 minutes and still not die, that's just insane. And it's not the only time Kramer's done something like this either. He's gotten a Baron teamfight where he just picks up kill after kill by himself without the help of his team. So he's really just like this incredibly solid rock for LGD. But he has to make sure that Ala and Icon can't get onto him because they're going to be gunning for him the entire game.
He's the reason he has the longest contract on LGD. That was a good pickup by them. And I wish we could have saved those player cams because there's something known as the Kramer sigh. After that 2-minute sequence, he let out a very, very long sigh of relief. The heaviness, the burden of the organization resting on this guy's shoulder. On the other hand, taking a look at the rosters today, LGD, they're still not going to start with Yuki. Going to be Ian in the mid lane.
Yep, Lies, Condi, Kramer, of course, and PYL going to round that one out. Don't want to sub RD back in. They've been happy with PYL's performances since they put him back on the roster.
A lot of Tom Kenches, a lot of Yakety Sacks, but he's still there to lead the team. And on OMG side, they're actually giving us a new look today.
Yeah, they have Ala in the top lane, subbing in Penguin once again into the jungle. Icon incredibly common in the mid lane. Chelly on AD carry, and Xuan coming in. Surprisingly, we've seen him in the OCS before, and now he's come back to the LPL to show us exactly what he learned down under.
Aussie alert, because we always have to have an Australian on the broadcast some way, somehow. Whether it's Atlas, whether it's Rusty, whether it's Hysterics, I think Xuan is just continuing that tradition. He has played in the OPL before on Regicide, and the interesting thing is that back when he was playing on Regicide, that team actually fully communicated in Mandarin. So there's not going to be any communication mistakes like we expect from Levi.
Which is an important note coming in here, because especially when you have like a last-minute substitution that we haven't seen on the full stage before, communication issues are really the worst thing you could deal with. But I'm not sure how these substitutions are going to help out OMG all that much, because I feel like Penguin hasn't really come out with any, I'd say, standout performances compared to what Best 16 has been able to pull off. I wasn't blown away by Penguin's performances.
For sure. Penguin's still a very young player. We've just seen him play two previous series where he's pulled out the Xin Zhao and the Aatrox. Like you're talking about OMG not really finding those wins in those series, but it's a rebuilding phase from OMG. Everyone knows this. They've been trying out their rosters, and even though they still have a chance to go into playoffs, that chance is very, very slim. So we do expect them to use the rest of the split to kind of shore up their rotations and look for a very strong start come summer.
It's a useful amount of freedom that some teams have. You know, Rogue Warriors were knocked out of the playoffs last time, and they have a similar opportunity as well. You get to develop your team before the next split starts. This is something you can't really do if you have playoff contention still in mind. And yes, OMG, they're still in it. We're talking like they're out, but they still have a chance.
Yes.
But you said it's very slim. It's, you know, no, I don't think anyone can disagree with that, Clement. So you look at them and they're saying, all right, we get the opportunity to develop. Other teams can't do this. The teams at the top standings, if FPX wanted to sub in someone, they don't get to do that because that risks their playoff chances, that risks their security in the top of the bracket. So this is something that OMG and Rogue Warriors are deciding to do now, and it's all about looking towards summer and how well they're going to perform going forward.
Honestly, OMG, their single position that's always needed a shore-up has been that jungler position. They've been trying out so many junglers. Honestly, since SMLZ was still on the team, World 6 and Jiko were in the rotation, and then we had Mountain coming from the LMS, from AHQ, to try and shore up that position. Best 16 has been doing a good job this time around as well, but they want to try out more options, make sure they have a strong position that can link up their all-star solo laners.
Looking at the pick bans coming out already, the bans... Look, there's a PYL, Tom Kench ban.
This is really funny, but Tom Kench is pretty much the only champion PYL has consistently played well on, and LGD on blue side, they actually first pick Tom Kench quite often. Despite there being Zoe, despite there being Lissandra in the meta, they're like, no, we have to first pick Tom Kench. So it's actually quite common that teams ban it away from them.
And OMG were trying to focus down onto the bottom lane. We already pointed out how much of a carry threat Kramer was going to be. They took away his Kaisa, they took away his Vayne. He says, I don't care, I still have an on-hit late game threat, and on-hit Neeko.
This is interesting, because Neeko right now, it's not the 9.5 patch where she has the enhanced CC duration. So the Neeko has been rarely picked in the LPL. Only 4 picks so far on 9.4, but our on-hit damage is still monstrous. It's very, very scary to think about it. If you think about 9.5, they actually halved her on-hit damage. That's how broken they thought she was, but still not finding a ton of success in the LPL. Currently sitting at 2-2 so far. She does have a bit of trouble inside the laning phase, but if you can get her on those 2 items, she's one of the most dangerous AD carries around.
And OMG know that. You know, that's what their pick response is. They want to pick up that strong bot lane. They have the Alistar, they have the Kalista, good combo with the Fate's Call, and they just know that Neeko's weak in the lane, and they're saying, all right, that's where we're going to be strong then. Now it looks like LGD going to lock in the Lissandra there for Ian in the mid lane.
Yeah, Lissandra, one of the go-to picks for the blue side right now. Of course, Zoe is still up. That is something that Icon has been playing very well on. I want to see if he wants to go for that pick. OMG, they look like they're setting up for a strong early game type of composition. Kalista, one of the strongest early games. We were talking about it on 9.4, still at above 60% win rate for the ADC.
Now, we did see the Lissandra be flexed, however, last night. We saw it taken down into the support position by Lumal. So there is the possibility for that as well, because you have both the Lissandra and the Galio who can both be flexed into those two positions. So LGD still have a little bit of freedom in their draft. And OMG have picked up the Cassiopeia, it looks like. Just 5 seconds left for them to finalize that decision. But if he goes through, it's a big threat.
Cassiopeia has been through a ton of nerfs, but it's still something that Icon is willing to play onto. A very good Cassiopeia in his own right. And we can see that OMG are setting themselves up to have very, very strong lanes across the board. Their mid and bot should have priority. All they need is a strong jungler that can capitalize on those lanes, link it up, and just try to dominate that red side jungle from LGD. I want to hit a little bit on the mid and support roam between the options between Lissandra and Galio, and I do feel like this should be a Galio support and a Lissandra mid lane. The main reason being that Lissandra, she's more about the priority and roaming in lane, but Chelly, not Chelly, Neeko is not a champion you can really leave alone in lane, so I do think that it's still going to be the Galio support and the Lissandra for Ian.
I love that you've associated Neeko with Chelly,
Yes.
because he really was like the first one to bring it out in the LPL and has played it, I think, the most out of anyone. But like you were talking about, they want to make sure they can get a good jungler to link up the mid and bot. For both teams, they seem to be prioritizing locking that out here in the pick ban, with OMG banning out the Nocturne and Jarvan, but LGD with that top ban Gangplank.
Yeah, just LGD are taking away these safe options from OMG, taking away Allah's champions. Remember, he is a Camille main, which is very infrequent in the LPL. You don't really see that pick still being prioritized that much in towards the top side. And for OMG, they ban away anchor points that Galio can latch onto, those long-range gap-closing junglers that can enable a cannonball composition. So OMG taking away the comp space, taking away the catch potential.
Now they've picked up the Kindred as well. They were hovering the Jax, and I think that might be a decent pick for Allah. We've seen him be very successful on it previously, so be interested to see if they're still willing to pull that out, because LGD do have to lock in both jungle and top here so they can see what kind of matchup Allah would be dealing with. They're going to secure the Rek'Sai, which we've been seeing drop fairly low priority here in the LPL, but it still is a strong pick.
Rek'Sai I still think is tier 0. She's one of the best picks on 9.4. The massive amount of chunk damage you can do to any jungler you come across is pretty disgusting. And Condi is one of those old Rek'Sai players that has a lot of experience on the pick. This is the pick that they took down Clear Love and EDG with as well. I think it's a great answer. It's also something that is very difficult to invade on. Just with the tremor senses, Rek'Sai can tell when you're coming in. So I like that defensive-minded pick when you're going up against strong lanes like Kalista and Cassiopeia.
Given that she's such a strong pick, why have we not been seeing her like prioritize first rotation here a lot in the LPL?
There are actually counters to the Rek'Sai. I think that's the big reason. And she also is a pick that really you have to do something with her early game. Rek'Sai is still not a pick that's strong middle or late game. She provides damage and one single knockup, but that's about it. So you really have to have a team composition that wants to snowball early. And you also have to avoid certain counter picks like the Jax. OMG was already flexing that. We could see the potential of the Jax pick. It has been played in the LPL against the Rek'Sai, and you can block out the majority of her damage.
Instead, it looks like Allah going for the Sion in the top lane, which is a much safer, much tankier pick than we initially expected. And into the Kennen. Is it still the safe laning phase that Sion's known for?
Sion can actually trade against the Kennen quite well. Of course, the Kennen is going to bring the Kleptomancy. He's going to be trying to avoid the lane push. and just stack up. But most of the time, the Sion can actually create situations where he's still in control of lane priority. And that's very important, because if you leave that Kennen to be able to teleport to the bot side, that creates a lot of problems for you. So I understand the pick. I still would have preferred the Vladimir. The Vladimir is considered more of a harder counter to the Kennen. You can trade favorably just with the sustain you have in hand. But the Sion's a fine pick. They want a front line to go with the Kalista, which I understand. Much easier to execute in terms of the team fight. And throwing a Sion into someone feels a lot more satisfying than throwing a Vladimir.
just a little bit, and they have a lot of engage now with that composition. You know, you talked about the TP potential for Kennen, but also you just have a giant tanky potato running at you 1,000 miles an hour. That's a pretty good engage tool there for OMG as well.
So taking a look at the compositions here, LGD, they have a very good CC control front line. There's 3 big AoEs in the front just to have room for Kramer to dish out all of his damage, and kind of the same idea for OMG. Very strong front line backed up by 2 strong late game carries in Kalista and Kindred.
We'll see which one comes out victorious as we get into game 1 of LGD versus OMG. LGD having a little bit of an advantage there, but I think that's just because of the microphone positioning. I feel like it's been unfair 2 nights in a row. They're so far away, but both fans coming out to support their team as best they can. The early game looks like LGD looking for an early invade.
I think it's just because we're playing Hangzhou. You have to cheer for the home crowd. That has to be done. Taking a look at the keystones here. Ooh, very interesting. We're actually going to be seeing Conquerors being brought onto the Kindred. Typically, it was press the attack beforehand, where she already has a stacking mechanic on hand. But with 9.4 Conquerors, we've been seeing a lot of junglers that want to do the 1v1 duel actually take it up.
Well, it's interesting here, especially for the Kindred, because she's a ranged champion, so the duration on the stacks is significantly lower. It's only 3 seconds instead of 8, so I don't know exactly how viable that's going to be outside of longer team fights.
Yeah, and there's 2 explanations. One, Penguin could be just looking to duel the enemy jungler. If you're taking Conquerors, you're not really going to proc it inside of a gank. It takes 5 procs. It's actually very difficult to do. But if you're going in a solo invade mission, then it becomes a much more viable rune. We've been seeing the Jarvan take it. We've also been seeing the Olaf take it as well for that purpose. And like you were saying, late game team fights, OMG do have a good front line, so they could be letting that Kindred shore up the damage that's going to be lacking from Kalista. Kalista, one of the lower DPS champions when it comes to the post 30 minute mark.
Interesting to see the pathing from the Kindred. We've actually seen this path taken a lot recently. Red directly to the opposite side scuttle. Despite the mark being on the top side, it's really unfortunate for Penguin, but able to get a little bit of vision to try and stop this gank that Condi's going for.
Visual bug? Visual bug?
Has to be.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a visual bug, but that flash knockup is not forcing the flash away from Icon as well. Icon's trying to get a kill onto Condi, but it looks like all that'll happen is flash for flash.
And we didn't really get to see the trade in full. There was a bit of a glitch right there, but what we could see is that it seemed like the way they comboed it was they landed the Rek'Sai first and then used the Lissandra, the Lissandra Ring of Frost. So the cleanse was actually not used by Icon. Instead, the flash was burned fairly early on.
Now LGD is still aggressing into this jungle for OMG. They want to keep vision onto Penguin. They did a great job early with the vision spotting out the scuttle take, so they just want to keep that up. They're playing very aggressively with it, but this will give Condi time to go back into his own topside jungle.
Just looking at the routes that each side has taken, I actually favor Condi's route a little bit more. He did start with the Krugs, very important for junglers, the most EXP you can possibly get from a camp. Also splitting the scuttles as well. So he's off to a very, very good start in terms of the jungling positions. He knows where the Kindred is, and we've been seeing the blue side advantage for jungles very frequently in the LPL. A lot of the times the junglers feel a need to get the early bot side scuttle, even if they're starting on their own red buff, just to protect from the level 2 gank.
Uh-oh, there's the engage coming on to Kramer. He's forced to flash. Ignite's already gone down. PYL looks like he's stuck between a rock and a hard place this time. I don't think anyone's going to be able to save him. Flash heal might be enough, though. They flash in, and they get the first blood onto Penguin.
Very long extended trade. I'm actually quite surprised by this outcome. Honestly, LGD did have a good idea where Penguin could be on the map. They had the Raptor warded, so they knew he was walking towards the bottom side of the map. But unfortunately for them, LGD's bot lane was still pushed up so far and could not react to it.
Now, OMG, with this advantage, trying to get a little bit of vision there, but instead, Ian's going to spot this out, so Penguin not going to be able to get a whole lot done, but does now have vision on the other side of the red buff. So if Condi goes for another cheeky gank towards the mid lane, it will be spotted out. And he's just farming away in his top side of the buff. Worth noting that the Ocean Drake will be spawning fairly soon.
Yep, and this is one of those lanes that you could really snowball hard out of. Neeko in lane doesn't really have the best trade. She's an auto attack bot, very similar to Kalista, but she doesn't have the rend, and she doesn't have the payoff at the end for it. And we've been seeing this happen quite often, is that you can target down the Neeko in lane. Globally, Neeko has not had the best of win rates for an ADC. She's actually done much better as a top laner on 9.4. In fact, the win rates for Neeko on 9.4 have been around 33% in the bot side, and a big reason for that is doesn't really have the mobility to avoid a lot of these lane trades, and doesn't really have the skills to trade favorably either.
It's kind of cute that Kramer's just going for the constant transforms. It's not going to do a whole lot for him. It's not going to trick anyone, but at least he's trying, man. Penguin.
There's actually a very good reason you do that, because you can actually lane push faster. We've been seeing a lot of mid laners do that as well. Oop.
Oh, Condi going in for the gank again, but Penguin's there this time. A good ultimate from Icon. The cleanse will keep him safe from the frozen tomb. Condi goes down, but teleport coming in from the top lane. Lies wants to go in. He has the ultimate available. He's going to pop it now. Slicing Maelstrom doesn't land any stuns, and PYL's here for the defense.
Massive win for OMG. Penguin picks up 2 kills directly, and that should be a couple of marks as well. You can see the top laner from OMG did not have to respond to the situation, and they basically win a 3v3, trading 2 for 1. See the start of the fight. Icon does get the petrifying gaze off. Massive play right there, because it avoids the one-shot combo that Rek'Sai would have been able to deal. Even though the headbutt was a little bit questionable, did give Lies an easy start. However, the sheer amount of damage that Icon was able to dish out in that situation really saved it.
Yeah, he was able to, he was able to save a little bit, but the problem is now, Penguin 2-0-1 on this Kindred, got the stack as you mentioned, so already getting ahead, and you were saying that post 30 minutes, Kindred doesn't necessarily scale all that well, but if you're this far ahead early against a Rek'Sai who also doesn't scale well, then I think that looks pretty good for OMG.
Oh, Kindred scales incredibly well. just to make that known. We've actually seen a lot of Kindred Kalista compositions, and the reason is that if you have 2 AD carries, Kindred can really make up for the lack of damage that Kalista does in the later phases of the game. So a common composition in the LPL. We've definitely seen this before. Also the Lamb's Respite, keeping those short-range AD carries alive. I was, however, checking the stacks on Kindred, and it looks like she's only got 2 stacks to her name so far, so only getting the mark off of Condi.
Yeah, the Gromp will be the next mark that she has to contend for, but it looks like LGD a little bit ahead of the game here on the Dragon take. Should be able to secure this Ocean Dragon uncontested, as their bot lane is here as well. It'll be spotted out, but doesn't matter all that much. Condi picks that one up. And first Dragon over to LGD. Next one is going to be yet another Ocean.
OMG have so many options open to them. They could have a teleport coming in from the top lane. Sion is still holding on to all of his summoners, unlike Lies, who had to expend them in the previous fight. Penguin should be able to invade onto the Rek'Sai at this point. Already has the warriors complete. And even though there's been a lot of ganks thrown onto Icon's way, he has been able to outplay them pretty well.
Yeah, he's been doing pretty well with the ganks, especially with that last one where he got the 2-man petrifying gaze onto the dive, single-handedly saving it, essentially. So Icon is not getting pressured as much as it might be necessary to keep him down in this game, because Cassiopeia late game becomes that machine gun mage. And right now, she's picked up the tier, she started stacking that, she has a ton of sustain from the Double Dark Seal Corrupting Potion. Good start for OMG in both the mid and jungle.
I really like both of these compositions because it leads to cool 5v5 team fights. On LGD side, you have a front line that packs a ton of control, and on OMG side, you have a front line that is just very, very tanky. The Sion and Alistar, and also the Cassiopeia for the mid line, are going to push up the front and allow Chelly and allow Penguin to dish out a lot of damage. I love 5v5s. I really am a team fight watcher. I think those are the best things you can watch in League of Legends, and this is one of those games that is going to set up for that.
Penguin looking to stay aggressive here into Condi's jungle and try and steal away the big Raptor. Will secure it. Nicely done by him. Still just on the 2 stacks, however, because he wasn't able to secure the Gromp, but still getting pressure, getting some damage onto Condi's economy. But one question I have, Clement, maybe if Penguin decides to get knocked up here, it might not be able to happen. The ultimate coming out as well. Penguin's so low, but pops the Lamb's Respite. PYL tries to defend his jungler, but Condi dies. The flash isn't going to land for PYL, and suddenly it's a 4 versus 2. PYL going to be the next target. Good flash from Xuan. He needs to get the knockup. Maybe not. Just the double kill going to come in for Icon.
And the Snake Lady walks away with the double, so well timed on the last Twin Fang. The Lamb's Respite fell down, and the Twin Fang found its mark, taking away Condi. Also important to note that the mark was on PYL, so we do see an extra stack for Penguin.
Almost at that 4, about to get that range increase. Once he does, he's going to be a lot scarier in this. I mean, he's already really scary, Clement. Let's be fair. We just saw him absolutely dominating that gank alongside Icon, who did so much work for OMG.
It looked very good for LGD. They actually got the drop onto Penguin to start the fight off, but let's just watch that sequence right there. Icon able to land the Petrifying Gaze, keep the Rek'Sai in place, and finish him off before the Lamb's Respite actually gives him a way out. So very well timed by the entire sequence, using the priority well. And this is what we were talking about in the draft phase. OMG need a strong jungler to link up their priority in the mid lane and the bot side.
And they've gotten it with this Kindred. But LGD want to capitalize if they can and try and get the Rift Herald with the extra time they've been given. Penguin may be looking for the steal, but won't be able to find it. So this gives LGD a little bit of something. They've gotten both of the organic objectives, we'll say, so far in this game. So the Rift Herald is going to be sitting on Condi, giving them the potential to push.
Really good recovery from Condi. This is what experienced junglers do. They die first, but you know what that means? It means we're on the map first as well.
Well, he's on the map, but it's a matter of what he can get done. And now with the Rift Herald, he has the potential to do a little bit more. But the question I had earlier that I didn't really get the chance to talk about, with the on-hit Neeko, what is the ultimate just going to be used for self-peel in team fights? Because we were talking about the power of team fights for both of these teams, and I'm having trouble understanding what Kramer's role with the Pop Blossom is.
Well, as Neeko, even though the ultimate is very tempting to use because it's an AoE, crowd control, most of the time her damage potential is what you're really picking Neeko up for. So I think like you were saying, it's going to be a self-pick.
Oh my god.
Oh wow.
Icon just soloed out Ian in the mid lane. Okay. Under tower, by the way.
Yeah. Very well done. They had eyes on Rek'Sai, I assume. Icon able to go past the tower, doesn't even have to burn flash for that. And it seems like Ian was caught off guard in that trade. Did not pop his ultimate.
Gonna be honest, so were we.
Yes.
We were not expecting that solo kill to come out, but Icon now 4-1-1 as the Archangel staff starting to build up. So he's looking real good. 7 stacks on the Dark Seals as well, worth mentioning. This is really scary because you have 2 late game scaling champions, the Kindred and the Cassiopeia, that are doing well, and in the bot lane you're just picking up turret plating after turret plating.
We haven't seen the Cassiopeia for a while. She's been banned out most of the time, but the damage nerfs have only been to Miasma. She's still hitting like a truck on the Twin Fangs, and I guess Ian just didn't expect the damage like we weren't expecting the solo kill.
Now LGD want to try and win something back with this move. They're dropping the Herald inside of the top lane. So they want to get the turret platings, maybe get the tower itself.
They should win the trade.
They will potentially win the tower trade and get the first tower, which they do. That's great, but they're going to leave the dragon open and their bottom tower at the same time. So OMG could potentially respond. LGD want to keep the push going.
OMG don't have any damage to actually stop this push. This is going to be a 2-for-1 trade if they let it continue. Good Roar of the Slayer does take the Herald away, and a great Decimate actually clears out most of the wave.
So now OMG get 1 tower for 1 tower on LGD, but they also pick up the Ocean Drake, which is going to even out the dragons a little bit here. OMG, did they get the better end of that trade in the end?
I do think OMG still got the better end. Just look at the gold difference between the bot laners. Already Chelly sitting at 5,700.
Oh no, Ian. Miasma not going to be thrown out by Icon, so he'll be able to get away, but this is so dangerous for him to be up that far in lane.
And the thing I wanted to mention about is that 2-item spike coming in from the Kalista. If he gets typically the Runons as a second item, she's very difficult to deal with. That teamfight prowess is just disgusting to handle, and she's very much on her way to getting that 2-item spike beforehand.
Oh no, Lies was not expecting the 2-for-1, has to flash away there in his own jungle. And, you know, you just look at the rest of the map, you're talking about the gold difference between the 80 carries, and that's massive, but just look at every other lane as well. It's almost a 2k gold lead. Oh, OMG going on to Icon, forced the cleanse out, and they might finally get the kill. They do. The shutdown goes over onto Lies. He's already got a 30 CS lead, so this is going to help him get a little bit more of a lead over Ala.
The first move that we've seen Lies really pull off this game, and it's going to put them in a very good trading situation. Pressure in the mid and bot as well. OMG trying to trade it back, but only on the top side, and they're in no position to actually fight off LGD members.
But since OMG were able to pick up the bottom tower before, they've just rotated Chelly into the top side as Kramer is stuck trying to solo take down the tower. Condi will give him a little bit of assistance, but it does look like it'll end up being a 1-for-1 tower trade cross map.
Big play across the board. Also, the Kennen did not expend the slicing maelstrom, so still has that for the next team fight.
Yeah, and Sion is without an ult as well. Icon not going to have his for a little bit, so if a fight were to break out now, be in favor of LGD, but that's a big call because there's nothing to fight over at the moment. Still the outer mid tower remaining for LGD. That's the last tower they have up on the board to fight over, but that's the case for both of these teams.
Are you ready for that big team fight? Because we
oh,
have
you
an
know I am,
Infernal
Clement.
Drake coming up.
You know I'm ready. Next Drake going to be the Infernal. 2 Oceans so far, but now it's going to get
Oh,
fiery.
good stop.
Whoa, what a knockback there from Xuan. And now Ian just gets blown up from the damage of Chelly and Icon.
Well done from Xuan. Look at how many wards LGD had on the map. He still was able to navigate himself and come in from an angle that was unexpected. Multiple wards into the blue side of OMG's own jungle. I actually want to see how he found his positioning behind enemy lines.
We were getting so excited about a potential fight, Clement, but if OMG are just going to keep making picks like that onto LGD, we might not have a fight break out in the first place.
Non-stop action. Already 9 kills at 16 minutes. OMG have a very good setup on this next Infernal Drake, and just look at the amount of kills that Cassiopeia has at this point. Already has the Zhonya's ready. That's a massive change to how the team fights are going to be played out.
Oh no, Lies, you should not have stopped your back there, buddy. Now you guaranteed that you're going to die, getting picked off for the second time there in the top lane, and Penguin is just absolutely massive. He's working on a Zeal item, he's got a Kindle gem, 3-0 and 3 on this Kindred.
The world keeps on spinning. The famous lines from the OMG team song. It's proven right today. The next line is actually, time will reveal a better future. And that's what OMG wants to showcase today with their new roster. Once again, they are showing the debut of Xuan in the bot lane, a former OPL support coming over from Regicide, and Penguin also starting his 3rd series as well.
This is an important series for LGD as well. They're not looking to prove their roster as much as they are looking to stay into the playoffs. Remember, if they lose this one, they're out. That's it for them this split. And Kramer trying to do his best. He's down 30 CS, but he has traditionally been the way that LGD carry. Once he gets his second item, I feel like maybe they have a chance to come back, but you have to look at what they're up against. And Icon has just finished stacking the Archangels. He's got Azonias on his back. And Chelly, like you said, going towards that Runeans at a breakneck pace.
Oh, but this is devastating. We could see that the Kramer still does not finish his second item. That's a massive damage boost because it means that your 3-hit passive now becomes a 2-hit passive. It's a lot of missed damage on Neeko's end, and I don't really think they can contest this next Infernal Drake with the builds they currently have. Their only realistic hope is if they can catch out Icon first. And just looking at Icon's summoners, he still has the cleanse on board. So unless there's a massive outplay from LGD, OMG should have a lockdown on this Infernal.
Well, Icon doesn't have the flash, but he will have Zhonya's as well. So like you said, it's going to be a really tough call if LGD want to take this. There is the potential for a steal, but with a Kindred on the field, it becomes even more difficult, especially when you also have a Kalista. The objective taking from OMG, the potential is just absolutely insane. PYL, okay, visual bug, we're cool.
We do have to note that the Rek'Sai did spot out. Oh, wait a minute.
No.
Lies hot.
Let's charge it in hot, and Lies is just, he's still alive. He was split pushing. He's got the teleport as well.
Huh.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the visual bugs are a little bit more rampant today, but Lies.
Oh, they finally get the pick on the Icon. There's the Zhonya's. He's got nothing else to keep him safe. If they can just get down the damage, they do. The flash slicing Maelstrom into the backline from Lies. Not able to pick up a stun, but they'll stall out the fight long enough that they can push down and take out Icon. Now the mid tower, the last outer remaining here on OMG's side, will be picked up by LGD, and they just want to keep the push going.
And an incredible turnaround. That was the pick that we were talking about for LGD. The only member that they needed to take down to win the fight was Cassiopeia. Icon doesn't get the petrifying gaze off. Lamb's Respite doesn't come into range even. And they managed to find the picture-perfect pick to allow LGD to come back in the fight.
Icon will now have the flash next time that fight breaks out, but him not having it secured his death that time and will now secure the Infernal Drake for LGD. So now they're up a dragon, they're up in towers, but still down in gold.
That was the only way that LGD could have won that. I want to see how the replay starts off again. Icon simply walks face forward into the brush. Icon, what are you doing? Why would you ever go there? And then Lies follows up with a 4-man slicing Maelstrom to close it out.
OMG?
This is super risky. Early 20-minute Baron attempt. They do have the rend, and PYL is caught out.
Use the ultimate onto PYL. It looks like LGD just want to leave him for dead at this point, and if they do, that means they really can't contest this Baron. Icon flashes forward, but this might be his death if he's not careful. He no longer has the flash, will have the Zhonya's in a few seconds, but won't have the cleanse. So if LGD want to pick a fight, they're going to need that CC.
So really good return by OMG as well. That might have looked a bit weird, but thinking about the pieces that they have on the composition, I actually think they could have sneaked away a Baron if LGD did not respond to it. They still have the Cassiopeia, fed Cassiopeia, and Kalista with Rend. So that was actually a viable play there. But good on LGD to sniff that out and at least deter OMG from taking an early Baron.
And that second item we were looking for on Chelly has finally come to fruition. He's picked up the Runaan's Hurricane. But convenient timing here for LGD because Kramer has also just picked up his second item. He's got the Ginsu's Rage Blade, and now he's going to be able to start outputting damage here. LGD's carry starting to come online.
It's going to be about the defense from the front line of OMG. Can they actually keep the Kennen out of their carry, out of their back line, their carries? Can the petrifying gaze land? If OMG can fight this from front to back, I still give him, skills give them a sizable advantage.
Well, that's the big if, because you have Lies who would be able to flank around. You have him with the slicing Maelstrom. You could have a TP gank, 3 members looking for Icon once again. He uses the petrifying gaze, but he's going to get knocked up. Slicing Maelstrom trying to get the stun. They take down Lies, and Icon lives for a little bit. Going to get taken down finally, but that is a 1-for-1, losing Lies for Icon in a 3v1. It's not a good look.
It's a really good trade back onto Icon, and this is one of the reasons he still plays that Cassiopeia. We don't see a lot of Cassios anymore. The nurse half hit her a bit hard. And she's honestly commonly banned away from other lanes as well. The drafting phase just doesn't allow for it. But Icon, again and again, has shown that you can play very well on the Cassiopeia. You can even be a split-pushing menace sometimes.
Well, it's interesting to see now in the top lane, Ala going for the Abyssal Mass. This is actually going to boost Icon's damage in a team fight as well.
Yep.
So it's just a nice little thing you can pick up if you're feeling real chummy with your mid laner when they're on Cassiopeia. All the tank players loving that one, but he's also, it looks like, going towards the Righteous Glory to give them more engage. And if they're able to get these fights and actually have Icon live through them, the Baron might be in their sight once again. It's still alive, hasn't been picked off. Vision control in favor of LGD. And another objective will be on the field in just 1 minute and 30 in that Ocean Drake.
I think there's a lot of ways that OMG can play this. I think they have a really strong engage combo with just throwing out the Alistar as well. So I would want them to be more proactive around the Baron area. I feel like this is a situation where OMG can dictate where the fights are actually taken. They have a very fast Baron take. They have good engage. I want to see them utilize those tools and goad LGD into a trap.
So is LGD's only way to win team fights at this point by picking up a pick on the side onto Icon or Chelly or Penguin?
It definitely seems like the strategy they've been going for in the last couple of minutes. And just to showcase a little bit of the gold difference, Lies was having a very good top lane. He's 2,000 gold up. You expect that with the Kennen Kleptomancy into a tank matchup. That's pretty normal, but that also means that he's going to have a good time looking for targets like Chelly. He already has the double magic pen down. He's going to be doing massive damage if he can find that way into the back line. For OMG, front to back is what they're looking for, but for LGD, flanks are necessary, and that was unfortunate. That was not very good. Oh my god, that was...
How to waste 115 gold in 1.5 seconds, and how to
matter.
waste Ian in a little bit shorter time. Ian gets picked off by Ala and Xuan, blowing out the CC, and now Lies is on the flank, but he's got to get out of there if he wants to live and have a choice of contesting the Baron.
That's the second time that Ian has failed to get the Frozen Tomb onto himself. That was a situation where they could have turned if he was able to land that ultimate. The Kennen could have came in and made a difference, but right now, OMG should be going straight for the Baron. It's up to Lies to stop this.
He's staying on the flank. He's already used the electrical surge. Now he's going to have to flash over the wall if he wants to contest this. LGD trying to get vision through Kramer's W. Now just 4,000 health remaining on the Baron. They're going to need to go in now. The flash in with the slicing maelstrom gets the stun. Icon's gone golden. The Baron goes over to OMG. Meanwhile, in the rest of the fight, Lies is just left on his lonesome. Kramer trying to take down Penguin. Puts out a lot of damage, which will save himself, but they won't get a single pick off. And OMG get the Baron for the next 3 minutes.
Great play from Xuan. Instant headbutt away from the Kennen. Slicing Maelstrom, only able to tag 2 targets. A little bit of a dicey situation with the smites, but at the end of the day, Allah's still able to take it down.
Now they'll be able to push in, picking off PYL once again. PYL and E in this game just have not been positioning great in these fights.
Yeah, the frontline power from OMG, the engage potential really showing up big here. And honestly, LGD has lost a lot to these random situations. PYL had no business staying underneath that tower.
Baron buff still up and 2 members down for LGD. This should be a free inhibitor if nothing else. OMG don't want to press it any further, but look at Condi. He's trying to solo the Ocean Drake, but the entirety of OMG are coming for him.
Can he actually do it? I think he's too slow.
Hurry up, you little land shark, run! Auto, as if your life depends on it. Oh no, it's stolen away, and Condi wastes his life and all of that time as Penguin picks up the second Ocean Drake for OMG.
Even Condi had to laugh to that situation. We could see the player cams, him having a little chuckle, but first off, let's watch Xuan. You can see the synergy still lacking between him and Chelly actually flashing in the same direction. He butted the Kennen, but that doesn't matter. All that matters is that they secured Baron.
Yeah, they got the Baron. They'll still have it for the next minute and 50. They've picked up another Ocean Drake, and now they've expanded their lead to about 4K. They have even in towers, but when you have the Baron, you get to do a 1-3-1, you get to do a 4-1. Whatever you do, you have additional pushing potential. And if LGD can't get the flank, I don't see a way they can stop it.
This is such a great start for OMG. Honestly, OMG has only won 6 games so far this split. They have not been looking impressive, but this is one of the cleanest games that we've seen them play. Running a new roster, taking Xuan out, putting Penguin in as well. The team's really gelling well together.
And I'm feeling real bad about my predictions right now, because I thought LGD were going to have it. They were looking so good with Kramer as their primary carry, and Ian was seemingly a safer player than Yuki and wasn't having the same problems of getting randomly picked off. But I say that with this game in mind, and now it's just not looking good for LGD.
The observers have been having a lot of trouble keeping track of the Sion. We haven't seen a lot of starts for the Sion ultimates, but right there, LGD trying to get a catch, not working for them. Good disengage from Lies in the top lane.
Oh, there's the flank. He's coming in, wants to go in the front with the slicing maelstrom, but you're going against an Alistar. You're going against the Sion. They can stop you if you just go in without a flank. Ian on the side now. 2 inhibitors up for OMG. They're trying to pick off Ian. He's forced to flash away. Fate's Call used by Chelly and Xuan, but there's still a chance they're going to take it down. 2 minions pouring in with the Baron buff. LGD need to fight this if they want a chance to stay in the game. Xuan with a great engage, but Kramer's starting to pump out the damage from the backline. They're trying to get Ian as well. Chelly putting out a lot of damage. Kramer will try and dissuade him, but the Nexus towers are down, as is the Lamb's Respite. Penguin's still alive. They need to take him out. They get the shutdown onto him, but the Nexus goes down from the minions, and LGD just not able to hold on long enough.
Congratulations to OMG getting their 7th victory overall. They were the last place team in terms of win rate, but using their time well, and they will be rewarded with another chance to go into playoffs. They're not out of the running yet. If they win today, a slimmer of light is still open to them to make a miracle run.
The world keeps spinning. I wasn't expecting this by any means, and now OMG, Penguin was looking so good in that game. Icon looking good isn't something that I need to highlight as unusual, but Penguin looked so strong on that Kindred. He was able to get so much done, and you look at the gold graph, they faltered a little bit in the mid game when the Baron was on the field, but the general trend is clear. They were in control for almost the entire game.
The 2 most important plays for me that happened this game were all around the mid lane. Icon was able to outplay the first initial gank, didn't die to it, burned his flash, and then the second 3v3, OMG just swept the floor with them. Xuan was on point with his Alistar. He roamed early, he took out the Kennen. Lives was very ineffective on the pick. That was one of the worst Kennen engages I've seen at the end of the game, just trying to run straight forward into a Cassiopeia. That was very questionable on LGD's side, but I love what OMG is doing, playing to their win conditions, letting their individual talent really rise to the occasion, and it's one of the best synergy we've seen between their lanes and their jungles for the entire split.
Yeah, OMG looking great. That's cool. Everyone on OMG's side is happy for them, but you know what? We have to talk about both the teams. For LGD, you were talking about the Kennen in the top lane not really getting things done, but is that the entire picture? Was that all? Because in the lane, he was doing well. He got a bit of a gold lead early, and he was able to keep up with the Sion, keep him pushed, keep him, a little bit harassed, and he got a few good flanks, but it wasn't enough. But is that the entire picture?
I would say that the game was pretty even after that Infernal Dragon fight. I felt like everything was pretty well done by LGD from that point on, up to that point, but then the catches came in. Xuan found multiple engages onto Ian. We saw Ian die twice without using his Frozen Tomb, once giving up the mid lane, the other time giving up the Baron. Those were massive misplays on their part, and that really gave OMG all the momentum they needed.
Well, LGD need to clean up their positioning, and we're going to see if they'll do that or if OMG spin their way to a 2-0 victory coming up just in a bit.
Hello everybody and welcome to week 7 of Raz's Recaps. We're 2 weeks off of playoffs time, which means every series counts. And so I'm going to be moving to the first series of the previous week, which was in Wednesday. FPX against RNG in the cage in Beijing. The global audience right there weren't too happy about the fact that this set was played at 9.2, so the assassin threats were still possible. Doombi could pick up that Akali, but the matchup at the top side of the map between Gimgoon and Amazing J was fun to watch. Gimgoon was getting the best of them, but that was about the mid lane, Xiaohu and Karsa, limiting Doombi that mattered the most. That's where the gold lead came in a factor. And then this time around, Amazing J came into the team fight, swept 2 members out of the pit, FPX doubles down, and even though FPX ended up taking down Baron buff, guess what? Guess who came back alive when he was able to come in at a flank? Xiaohu. Xiaohu was so influential in this series, this game in particular, that I don't know how they were able to limit him. The fact that the 2v2 in the mid lane matters so much early on in this game, you better believe that Doombi comes into the game ender in this series with the Sion pick. He has never been pushed out of lane on Sion in this series, had to face a new reality. Come into another gold deficit into a team fight, this is where your eyes once again shifts onto the Syndra. See what Xiaohu's doing. comes at a flank seemingly, so much damage into the back line. So the AD carry, I mean, Uzi was sitting comfortable, but it was LWX that had to be sweating. So hats off to FPX coming into the series with a victory over Invictus Gaming, but team fights was FPX were looking for, and it was RNG that came out of Beijing high that day. I think Xiaohu gets MVP constantly on that one. I mean, I'm happy about that. And off this performance, unsurprisingly gets best of the rift in the mid lane. So congratulations to him to be able to be that sole carry and pick up a win for RNG. And for our next series, we have Suning versus BLG. BLG's been riding that high, but this is where tough schedule starts coming into order. Suning have been losing series after series. They're coming off a victory versus LGD. It didn't feel like it. And going up against ADD and Kuro, who are so sky high. Take a look at what ADD sets up for his team here. Amazing flank onto SMLZ, who is incredibly strong for himself, been able to farm up a menace, gets picked off instantly, and then the rest of the team loses out in the engage as Jin Zhao finds himself alongside Kuro at the back. Look at them kiting throughout the terrain. So if I'm looking at how BLG has been performing up until this point, they have been spot on. This was a slow series just because both of these teams coming into it have had the lowest bloodiness rate between both of them. I want your eyes to focus on this. This was earlier on in the game. This was ADD setting up a flank, getting a knockback into the Sleepy Trouble bubble. That was the second time that's happened this series. It feels like they've been practicing that one because it's very comfortable for them. So BLG looks so good, already feel pretty comfortable in their playoff spot, and after this series, I know that it's only getting better. So I want all your eyes to be focused on how those two Korean imports have been playing, and Jin Zhao, who was an honest Kalista pick, finding himself on a flank position. This was a clean sweep, 2-0, and I'm only focused now a ways ahead. Next week for BLG, they're going up against RNG. Let's see how they take it. And now we go back to our match of the week. FPX going up against TOP. Doinby, not looking like he's jovial this time around. He's deadly serious because he's going up against the golden left hand of Knight. Knight has been spot on, picking up MVP after MVP, unsurprisingly. And now it's going to just be man versus man, 2v2 matchup. This time around, FPX going straight for the early game. And they put 369 behind early, so this was FPX getting that early advantage, but TOP bringing it on back. It feels like in both the series FPX has had this week, they've been losing out in team fights. XX with an excellent ultimate, being able to pick out that back line. And so for FPX, losing out. In fact, 369 later on in that game getting a solo kill where he was behind for the majority of it. Wonderful to be able to pick up that victory, and they take the series as well back off of Knight's quirky pick, going on a 1-3-1. This team looks deadly. Team fight, macro, it's just insane to be able to see TOP performing, and they net themselves a first place spot in the LPL with that victory. And that does it for this week's Raz Recaps. You know how it goes. My player of the week, and you shouldn't be surprised about this, goes to RNG's Xiaohu. Xiaohu usually takes some time before he comes into playoff mode, but he's actually just getting into it. He's been a primary carry for the team. The team has recognized that. Cars is going straight through mid. I hope to see this playstyle going into playoff time because I don't want to see, once again, going to international events and we have the Uzi show. Put some faith in the man. Put him on LeBlanc, put him on Syndra. That's what he's currently doing and he's thriving on it. All right, I'll see you guys next week for week 8's Raz Recaps.